Yo, what is up guys, it's your boy Sami here. Today we are gonna see what if Naruto becomes the mythical knight, part 4. Hope you will love the video. So before we start, please subscribe to our channel and like this video. So let's begin the video.
Hey, man. Hurry up. I don't want to stay out any longer than I have to. There were 3 men standing in a dark shabby looking doorway in the middle of the night, 2 of them dishing him out 2 small portions of a glittering silver rock in little clear baggies, while he looked shifty and worried as he handed them their payment. "What's got you so jumpy?" one of the other men asked, looking confused. "It isn't like anything will happen to us. No one cares about a little rock or 2 of silver dust." "You haven't heard of it," he replied, even more worried now. "Someone took down some other silver dust dealers during the week. I'm freaking creeped out." "Oh yeah, I heard about that," one interrupted, rolling his eyes. "It was those brothers, on the other side of Greyland. I heard they pimp out their sister for a few coins. Even I wouldn't do that to my own sister." "You don't have a sister," the other interrupted with a laugh. "But I prefer sticking to the drug market, less likely to piss off the wrong sort. We got some black snake, if you're interested." "What? No," their customer quickly said. "Come on," the first man chuckled. "Those idiot brothers probably pissed off a cop or something for not giving them the right price on a cutback. They got off free of all charges yesterday evening. And they died hours later in that mysterious explosion," he replied, panicked. This news actually concerned them a little, but they were not going to worry too much, as it could be bad for business. "They say there's a hunter in Greyland," he stuttered out. "The district." This district was nicknamed for its crime rates and the lack of Konoha caring, not that they cared much in other districts, but richer and more dangerous men didn't want bottom feeders in their way. "He's coming for us," the man continued, as he pocketed his score. "I'm out of here," he said, running out of the doorway and round the corner out of sight. Damn piggy doesn't have a clue. The brothers must have really pissed off a bent cop or something. The larger of the 2 laughed out, as it wasn't uncommon for the corruption within Konoha to fight over money or territory or something. "Come on, let's get back to the club. These dark alleys admittedly make me a little nervous, and I want to grab a drink with a bitch to slick up my dick." They laughed as they headed out around the corner before they paused, eyes widening, as they almost tripped over the squirming form of their client. He was bound and gagged in a wire net that let off a few sparks of yellow lightning in the dark of night, and holding the man from rolling around the floor were dark green darts that looked like they had been part of a hole with 4-pronged clips buried to make sure he couldn't get away. "Shit," the larger man said, as he pulled out a large hunting knife. Maybe there's more to this than he looked around, as his smaller ally screamed, as something swished by, and he was suddenly twisted in steel cables hanging between the ground and overhang over a vacant shop. Some drops of blood dripped, showing with how tight he was trapped, while he struggled in panic, crying and whimpering in pain. "Whoever you are, show yourself, coward," the last man called out in anger. The irony that he and his gang picked on defenseless people 10 to 1 didn't seem to occur to him. His eyes were darting around the dark street looking for his attacker, but could only spook himself when the shadows seemed to shift. "Do you think that we'll stay in jail? We have some powerful friends who like to have us on the streets." Then, the man was terrified and wet himself as the hushed and gravely whisper was in his ear. "You'll have forfeited your life one chance for justice before I'm your judge, jury, and executioner no more." The drug dealer spun around, but nobody was behind him, but he looked around frantically, before something exploded in front of him, smashing him into the side of a wall before a green feathered arrow entered his left shoulder, and bunt up with his screams, as a huge field of electricity burst through his body before stopping, and he passed out trapped within a net with sparks of yellow electricity. It wasn't a good morning for the Hokage, as he was at a council meeting with these fools, and didn't know what to do, yet, but it would come to him. He often wondered whether his ninja would let him go on a murderous spree and slaughter the civilian council. Though, thinking about it, maybe he was the only reason they hadn't done it themselves, he sighed. "Hokage-sama. Whoever this menace is, has to be stopped, and quick," an annoying council member cried out in rage. "He's attacking upstanding citizens, and then dumping them in T&I. Then when they're rightfully released, he kills them." They were interrupted by the rude snort of a blonde man. "Rightfully," he hissed out in anger. "Those bastards didn't need to admit their guilt, they had the evidence on them. Selling silver dust, I couldn't care less personally, even though it isn't technically legal, but black snake and toad spores are highly addictive and extremely dangerous narcotics. How dare you speak out of turn, Yamanaka-san." Another spat out in disgust while interrupting the blonde man. "I myself have pleasant business dealing with one of the men this murderer killed. He ran a rather pleasant drinking hole," he said before turning to the Hokage. "You must do something about this filth before we're forced to go over your head." "I'll take that as a threat," the Hokage suddenly ground out in hate. "Speak to me like that again, and I'll have you sent to T&I for treason," he spat out, calling the man. "If you want to capture this vigilante ninja, then since the city isn't in any immediate danger, I see no reason why the taxpayer should pay for it. If you want to commission Konoha Ninja for a mission, I'm sure my mission office will inform me of your request, and we can arrange payment." Now, if we have no more business, Tsum-san, I wish to speak with you in my office if I may. The Hokage finished, but he didn't leave them in question. He didn't care what they thought, and that they were dismissed from the massive hall full of mostly arseholes with a few good seeds thrown into the mix. Hiruzen exited the chamber while they were all getting up, grumbling angrily under their breaths. He was deep in thought, so he didn't give their mumblings much thought. He was a little concerned, but while this mysterious ninja was only causing the crime gangs of Greyland trouble, he didn't see any reason to care about putting much effort into capturing him. Heck, if he slaughtered the whole of Konoha's underground, he would help keep his identity from the council if he ever found out who this vigilante was. Meanwhile, it had been about 3 weeks since Tenten had beaten up Sakura, and Naruto tricked Kakashi into getting beaten up by an old woman. It had been kind of amusing to find out that the woman was filing charges on Kakashi. Tenten sat in her room with a 15-year-old girl. The girl had deep and sunny crimson hair, short at the back and long on top, cascading over her small ears and shoulders, evening just over her average bust. The red-haired girl had amazingly beautiful soft pale skin and crafty blue eyes that sparkled with entertainment. They sat opposite each other cross-legged on the bed, with the redhead wearing the school uniform of the local high school. "Go on, you wanted to feel me up, right?" the redhead said with a sexy husk to her cocky soft voice. Tenten blushed as she reached up and gave the red-haired girl's right boob a squeeze through her uniform blouse. Tenten's brown eyes opened wide before she reached down and paused as she stared at the redhead's blue skirt and shyly slid her hand up her skirt and across her panty-clad crouch before pulling back quickly as the crimson-haired girl let out a little gasp and bit her lower lip. "Ten-chan, you tease," the red-haired cutie purred with an adorable pout. Tenten's cheeks darkened as she stared at the girl in awe. "Oh, my goddess, this is freaky, Naru-kun, Naru-chan. Come on, sweets, don't leave me like this," Naru whimpered as she struggled with Tenten's hand while trying to make her feel her up some more. "Don't you want to feel me a bit more, just to be certain?" "No, Naru-chan, what if my dad came up here, silly?" Tenten said, quickly pulling her hand back, but she did smile as her boy girlfriend looked so adorable pouting. "But this should be impossible," she replied, confused. "You've actually turned yourself into a girl. This is impossible, or should be. Can you do the same with guys? You're so short in this form. It's strange." Naru shook her head. "No. It's only an illusion with guys, but if I fix it enough, I could trick you, well, perfectly, I guess. It's just like this, it won't just poof away if I get knocked about." "Don't ask me why," she said, shrugging, though secretly knowing it was because of the Kyuubi ceiling, what with being a girl demon, and somewhat half and half in her form with a female him. She smiled as she shook her head, sheepishly shrugging. "I have to say I love your hair though, it's so smooth and soft, I think I could pet you forever," Tenten replied, looking over at the red-haired girl in awe as she raked her fingers through the redhead girl's amazing hair. "It doesn't make sense, Naru, but maybe it could be a bloodline power, but I don't see how much use turning into the opposite sex could be." Naru shrugged as she thought about it. "Well, I guess, apart from tricking perverts, but not all bloodline powers are all that useful, are they?" "I guess you've got a point," Tenten agreed, nodding her head thoughtfully, as she had heard of some really stupid ones, like a pee your pants technique. Really? Was that necessary? "Well, anyway," Tenten continued, "you should probably turn back, so we can leave. If we're up here in my room alone for too long, Dad will come looking." "Okay," Naru agreed, giggling, as she leaned forward and up slightly, as Tenten was taller than her now, and kissed Tenten's lips, and slipped her some tongue before pulling back, and making Tenten look uncomfortable for a moment, as she found that too hot. "Wait," Tenten quickly stopped Naru, as the redhead hopped off the bed. Tenten stared up at Naru with a crafty smirk, as she thought of something other than the kiss. She jumped off the bed to stand before Naru, and looked smug. "It will be much more fun to go out, and see whether anyone will recognize you. We both have the day off, so it will be fun." "Okay, I'm all for having fun," Naru said while smirking. She wore a cute white blouse with a sailor-like V-neck collar in blue over her back, and round her neck with a red bandana, tied with a ring tied around it, with the local high school's crest over her right breast, and last black half boots. And Tenten had to admire how cute and somehow powerful she looked while wearing the uniform. "Anyway, how do I look?" Naru asked, as she turned this way and that. "I got the uniform right? She asked, as she turned fully to Tenten with a bright wink, and her right hand making the V for victory sign, and her other on her hip. "Naru, it's so not fair that I can't look that cute in just a few seconds," she complained. "You have got to teach me that clothes technique." "Hey, don't worry, Ten-chan, you look plenty cute, and I'll be kind. You can touch me anywhere you want," Naru giggled, as she grabbed the brown-haired girl's hands, and pulled them to grope her boobs through her blouse. "Anytime you want, Ten-chan," she purred while giggling, as she turned, and pulled Tenten after her, and from the room, while her girlfriend was blushing bright red. "Naru-chan," Tenten complained shyly, but she couldn't stop this small laugh. "Anyway, how do you mimic being a girl so well?" she asked, as they headed down the stairs. Naru turned a smirk to her adorable Tenten. "I watch, and observe, and then I write in my personality, while I'm in girl form." I don't really do it much. I don't have much need for it really, so she shrugged as they exited the house and walked into the street. It's kind of fun actually, maybe a little naughty. Trust you, Tenten said laughing as she hung on to Naru-chan's hand. Anyway, do you have an official girl name? She asked thoughtfully. Naru looked at Tenten in surprise, before thinking for a moment. Naru. Narumi. Yeah. How about Narumi Uzumaki? Tenten couldn't help but giggle. I love it, Narumi-chan. Narumi smiled while shrugging, and her cheeks tinted slightly while she held Tenten's hand and cuddled her arm a little too much. Narumi and Tenten were happily laughing as they turned a few corners looking for some people they might know when they paused, as they noticed a commotion in the street where 3 older boys stood wearing standard ninja gear with sneering and leering expressions. They wore cloud forehead protectors, which was a surprise with the animosity Cloud and Leaf Ninja had towards each other. Tenten and Narumi both knew that the exams were in 3 weeks, but wouldn't have thought that any team from Cloud Village would turn up, let alone so early. However, it was afternoon, and the local school had let out, and a whole group of schoolgirls were being blocked from getting away. The girls looked frightened, as one of the boys kept trying to pull up skirts, while the 3 of them laughed, as if they were playing some kind of game. Why don't you try that on me, you dog shit, Narumi hissed angrily, as she charged over the street before Tenten realized it. Tenten didn't know Narumi was so fast, it was like blink, and you would miss her moving. Narumi's right foot snapped up, and blood exploded from the Cloud Ninja's face, as he went skidding across the path moving, as he was knocked out. The redhead moved out of the range of a strike, before grabbing the new one's crutch, and squeezing with a crunch. The guy screamed a very girly scream, before she slammed him face first into the ground, knocking him into unconsciousness. Narumi let him drop, as she turned to the last Cloud Genin to see him paling, and turned to run away, only to come face to face with the enraged crimson-haired girl, and looking back she wasn't there anymore. Her right fist connected with his stomach, blasting the wind out of him with blood before she grabbed his throat, and swept his feet, and slammed him out cold into the conceit, cracking the path, and his head in the process. Oh my god! That was incredible. That screech from one of the girls got all of the other girls cheering and squealing as they all tried to hug Narumi, which made her realize how much shorter she really was than Naruto. However, they all stopped as a huge killing intent swept over the area, and other than Narumi, only Tenten stayed calm and brushed it off. The girls were all quickly moving behind Narumi for protection, as a girl with short dark blonde hair and dark eyes walked over the street followed by 2 nervous-looking boys, and some huge dark-skinned muscle-bound man with dyed white blonde hair and dreadlocks with a goatee. It was the girl's killer intent they could feel, as she swaggered over, near cat-like. Narumi wondered whether fate loved conspiring to never make his life simple, as he or she realized that this girl and her team weren't going to be anything like the Cloud team she just beat up. What gives you the right to attack our other team? The blonde girl demanded, as she pulled to a stop, her killing intent still going strong. Narumi sneered, as she adjusted her pose, while looking up at the taller girl. It looked lazy until the other blonde grimaced, and stepped back, as her killer intent was overwhelmed by Narumi's in just a brief flash of power and strength before both killer intents were gone. If they're genin from your village ready to take the exams, you should be ashamed, Narumi retorted while the Cloud team straightened themselves up from the unexpected return killing intent. They think they can try sexually assaulting my girls. They get their faces broken, she said while gesturing down where all 3 looked like they had broken noses, as blood pulled from their unconscious faces. No fighting, Yujito, the man said to the blonde girl. Let's just take these fools and leave. You'll have plenty of time to fight during the exams. Yujito stood her ground staring down Narumi while she glared back, and the Cloud Ninja grabbed their downed genin and left before the blonde finally looked away and followed after her team looking peeved. Whoa, you just made an enemy of that girl, Narumi-chan, Tenten said in amusement. Narumi-chan, you're the best. Yeah, you're awesome, girl. Pretty, and kick-ass. Narumi was having a problem, as the girls wouldn't let her go, and they were hugging and groping her wherever they could grab, which was everywhere. She might have enjoyed all the attention if they would give her a little space to breathe. However, she had to use her sneaky talent substituting herself for some cute girl with glasses on the outer edges, leaving her to get groped up while Narumi ran away, as she grabbed Tenten's hand, before they realized what happened. The blue-haired girl with glasses whimpered a little, and cried timidly for them to stop, before they realized the other girl had switched places, and gotten away. They were all slumping in sadness when Ino had walked over, looking the way Tenten had run with a cute red-haired girl in a civilian school uniform. Was that Tenten with Naruto-kun transformed in his girl form? She asked herself more than anything. However, most of the girls heard, and squealed in even more delight, as they realized that, if she was really a boy ninja, they weren't all being lazy, and those that wanted to be all lazy realized that he could turn into a cute girl, so all was right with the world, as they ran off to find him or her, while squealing Narumi-chan at the top of their voices. Ino grimaced, as she watched the girls go, looking at her pet on her shoulder. Oops, I guess I'll have to apologize about that later, she said to Vine sheepishly. I wonder what happened though to get those girls all fangirly with someone they thought was another girl. She asked herself this more than Vine. I mean, she began with Shino, confused, as he and Hinata had snuck up on them, having watched the whole scene from across the street, as they had finished for the day, and their homes were in the same direction. She had just beaten up 3 perverted cloud genin, and then stood up to another 3, and their sensei. Hinata nodded her head in agreement with a soft blush. Narumi-chan was so cool and cute, she said with her cheeks darkening. Damn, I wish I got to see her beat them up, Ino whined with a sad sigh. Oh well, she's I mean he's bound to get into another fight sometime soon, she said with a sigh, shrugging. Hey, Hinata, do you want to go and find him with me? We might have to save him from all those perky schoolgirls. Hinata's eyes widened, before she nodded vigorously. Yes, we should hurry. I saw what they were doing to Narumi-chan. Just think of all of the naughty things they might try to do to him. Oh, I am, Ino replied while trying not to smile, as she grabbed Hinata's hand. Come on, stop daydreaming, she said, as they both rushed away leaving Shino behind. Not that he minded, as he had to get home for some training, but he still sighed. Lucky Naruto, Shino muttered with another sigh. And he won't snub them like Sasuke snubs his fangirls. Though, thinking, maybe all of Sasuke's fangirls will change fandom. Shino shrugged again, not really bothered, and headed on towards his house. It was getting dark when 10-year-old Hanabi Hyuga was walking back to her home from the ninja academy. She would normally have someone walk her, but she had sent her guard away, as she had a little extra work to finish, and she didn't want him waiting. It was her fault for forgetting to finish some of her homework. She brushed back her long dark brown hair, as she tried not to think about how creepy the streets were, while they were shadowed with the evening. It was lucky the academy was only a few blocks away from her family compound, but there were still some creepy areas and buildings along the way. She would never admit it to anyone, but the thought of walking through the cold dark streets at night alone sent a horrible chill down her spine. Hanabi felt like she was being followed, but didn't want to activate her to check, and felt foolish with her paranoia. It was just things in her life that had been out of whack lately, and things hadn't been quite the same for a few weeks, which was throwing off her game. She had been sparring with her big sister, and lost every time. Well, she didn't exactly lose, but her sister wouldn't stay still, and kept dodging everything like it was easy. It had been infuriating, but more, Hanabi had thought back to all of those times she had defeated her big sister, and realized that every single time, Hinata had let her win. She could barely believe her own revelation, and what was worse was now that Hinata wouldn't let her win, it was mocking her skill. She just couldn't keep up. Hanabi had never imagined her sister could be that fast, or that skillful. Though, she wondered why their father didn't seem to notice that Hinata was, and always had been better than her. Was he really that blind, and hateful to Hinata? She sighed, as she was just passing by a creepy-looking dark alley when she cried out, as something hit her, and knocked her flying into the alley. She crashed painfully into the ground before her training kicked in, and she flipped up to her feet standing in her family's fighting stance. She ignored the trickle of blood on her forehead, and wished she kept her guard. Her eyes took in the sight of a small woman covered in black at the alley entrance, but looking behind, she moved from the scary sight of a huge man also hidden by his black clothes. Hanabi moved away from them, unsure what they could possibly want, but she knew they were up to nothing good. Did they want to mug her? Could that be it? Was she about to get mugged? They didn't speak, as the girl charged her, but pulled to a stop seconds later, as a green feathered arrow sliced into the ground, where she would have been, had she not stopped, before she jumped back, but the arrow exploded. Hanabi's attackers looked up to the rooftops, as several more arrows shot down one after the other, one net bursting out of one, and slicing the wall of a building in two, before frying it with electricity. Then another 2 blew up in fire while the last few just sliced into the wall, as the man and woman in black barely flipped, dodged, and dived out of the way before they were back on their feet, drawing kunai, and ready for a real fight this time. The young 10-year-old Hyuga heiress just watched in awe, as she had heard the latest rumors about an archer putting a stop to crime, whereas the council let it go on. However, they had just been rumors, and she hadn't actually believed in such a person, but she could see them, the green feathered arrows. He was here, and he was saving her from these unknown ninjas. Show yourself, the large man in black demanded, looking around before spinning, and dodging another arrow. Who are you? He growled out angrily. I'm your judge. They were all shocked to hear the husky and cool voice right behind Hanabi. She looked behind herself to see him, her savior. He was wearing a dark green leather top with a wide and stiff hood up hiding his hair and his face in shadows, but she could see the black-green ash covering his dark eyes over like a mask. His trousers were dark green, near black combat boots with black boots, and some green belts strapped around his waist and chest with a green semi-triangular arrow pouch, full on his back at an angle to his right. He wasn't as tall as she would have thought, but his body looked strong, and his presence was intimidating. Hanabi had never before felt so small and odd in another person's presence before, well, except for with her father, but this was different. This was a feeling of safety. The new man held a beautiful bow with a small blade pointed forwards, and armed with an oddly designed arrow aimed at the large man while he looked towards the woman, not even looking at Hanabi or the man. You have been found guilty of the assault on an innocent Konohan citizen. I hereby sentence you to death, as arrest will be pointless for Kumo Ninja. You won't kill us, the woman said, as she seemingly glared at the newcomer. Even if you are pretty strong, it could start a war. No, he retorted with a growl, as he aimed his bow at her. I shall serve justice, and if your village is to wage war, Hokage will be next, he hissed out angrily. I will not allow politics to get in the way of what is right. You have attacked Hanabi-chan with the intent to kidnap her for. He didn't say what for, but Hanabi was old enough that she knew why they would want to kidnap her, and she shuddered, and couldn't help but feel grateful that she had a hero. She knew there were many girls who didn't have someone protecting them like this. No matter what, she deserves retribution, the archer continued, his voice harsh and dangerous. If you resist your judgment, it could only end up hurting you further. More than death, the Kumo woman hissed out semi-amused. There are worse things in this world than death, he replied with a growl. What you want to do with her is a prime example, and I shall let neither happen to her. Hanabi was awed, before she was startled, as the archer moved around her in a swift movement, so fast she almost missed his movements, guarding her. His arrow flew, and blasted the woman away, and out of the alley before he caught an arrow, as the large guy charged at him, and it sliced through his shoulder. However, that didn't stop the large guy, as the archer blocked kunai with his bow, and pushed him off before kicking him back. The large guy grit his teeth in anger, as he glared at the archer before looking to his partner, growling. Let's go, there are more coming, he yelled, as he blasted away in a flash of yellow lightning. Looking to the other, the archer groaned, as she had gone, before he turned to Hanabi. She could only stare at him in awe and shock, as he put his latest arrow away, and his bow surprisingly switched around, and shifted into his sword, before he slid it onto his back. The archer then stroked Hanabi's cheek, from the shadow under his hood, seemingly smiling, as he scanned her small slender body with his hidden dark eyes. You should be more careful while walking home from school, Hanabi-chan, he said in his husky voice. You should travel home with your friends next time. Hanabi looked up at him when she blinked, and he was gone. She just stared at the spot he had been. She had never seen anyone like him before, and she couldn't understand the thudding in her chest. She doesn't know why she felt so fascinated by him, but she felt odd just thinking about the way he handled them, the way his gloved fingers caressed her cheek. Hanabi. She was startled, as she looked up to see her father looking down at her with no expression, just cold eyes. What happened? We heard, and saw he look over to a wall, and marched over, seeing the green feathered arrow, and pulled it out in anger. Did he attack you? No, she replied, as she saw what he was trying to say. He was the archer, she said nervously, as she looked at the arrow in her father's hand. Arrow saved me from this large man, and this small woman. He said there from Kumo. Again, he hissed out in more anger, as he turned to other Hyuga ninja, when he saw the old man Hokage standing with them. This time we should just kill them, and damn the consequences. We cannot. The Hokage spoke commandingly. It seems what was it your daughter called him? Oh yes, Arrow. It seems that Arrow has driven them away for now. They'll think twice before trying again so soon, and we can get her some bodyguards. But, Hokage-sama, her father got out in anger. This is the second time they tried this shit with Hinata, and they got away with it. Yes, and they shall not a second time, he replied, leaving no room for discussion. Arrow has stopped them for now, and we'll have all of the ninja forces on the watch. The moment any of them even twist the law is the moment we'll take them all in. Her father just hissed out his anger, before turning to her. Hanabi, let's go, he said, leading her away. But if they attack my family again, I will not listen to you, Sarutobi, and I'll kill them, and offer no repentance. It shall be war, they will bow to us. The old Hokage sighed, as he watched them go, before looking around the rooftops. He knew this Arrow was watching. He just couldn't isolate his position, and didn't want to risk the council's wrath by trying to call him out to talk, so he left with his men. He would meet him eventually. After all, he didn't want to waste such a ninja by letting him hide away when he could be taking stealth missions. Naruto peeked around a corner and sighed as he straightened out his black suit and white shirt and black tie. He didn't mind all of the girls hugging or cuddling with him, and they were all eager to please him, so he could get them to make out with each other for his enjoyment. However, fun aside, they didn't seem to know when to just leave him alone because he had work. He had been speaking to a couple of young women about them renting one of the apartments in his building. His clones had managed to fix up several of the apartments so far, so he had put out a few ads. That was the reason he was in his suit, as he wanted to look good for meeting his possible tenants. The two women were both student nurses, and since Naruto's apartment block was quite close to the hospital, and the rent wasn't bad, and with all of the cleanup around Greyland lowering the crime rate, they felt safe enough looking, and accepting the two-bedroom apartment together since it was right at the edge, and nearer to nicer areas. It had been with the happy friends that the Anbu had found him, and told him that he was being summoned by the Hokage, but it was not urgent, so he didn't need to rush. So, Naruto finished up his business with the woman, had them sign the contract, and then left them with the keys before leaving them to it. However, Naruto had forgotten that the local schoolgirls had found out who Narumi-chan was, and when they saw him in his suit with his hair neatly done, and his shades on his face looking smart, sexy, and cool, according to them, they couldn't help but jump him, leaving him with some lipstick marks on his face, and a few hickeys on his neck. He smirked as he realized he had lost them, and quickly rushed out of hiding, and made it to the Hokage tower, readjusting his black-tinted glasses on his face over his eyes, and brushed down more wrinkles in his suit, and brushed away smudges of lipstick off his face. As he trekked up the stairs, Naruto didn't even bother responding to the secretary, as she angrily charged at him with the katana, before he pulled the sword from her hands nonchalantly, before lobbing her out of the window with a quick push to the small of her back. He was surprised she hadn't quit her job yet, but he could only hope, as he looked out, surprised she had finally landed on her feet, screaming up at him in anger. She was just unfortunate that Naruto's new fangirls had turned up, having heard him say he had to get to the tower, and with anger and rage, the secretary didn't know what hit her, as she was beaten to a pulp by around 40 angry schoolgirls. Naruto chuckled nervously, before opening the office door, and walking in, letting the door close behind him. He was surprised to see his team and teammate looking over at him, as he entered. The Hokage was sitting behind his desk, and didn't even ask what happened to the old bat this time, as he knew she had gone out of the window, as Naruto was playing with the katana he saw her with earlier. The old Hokage wasn't even surprised anymore, as Naruto had started a trend, and the woman still hadn't quit. "What's with the suit, moron?" Kiba demanded, laughing at Naruto while Hinata blushed, and eyed Naruto up and down hungrily. "Looking good, unlike you, dipshit," Naruto retorted laughingly, as he flicked the sword to a wall, and an ambu stepped out catching it. A woman with long purple hair and a cat mask, before stepping back into the shadows with the sword, which shocked the other students, as they realized Naruto knew she was there, and threw it to her. Naruto then buried his hands in his trouser pockets looking bored, and for once Sakura briefly thought cool while looking at Naruto, and realized what Ino saw in him. She hated feeling like that, but she was only human, and couldn't control what her body felt. However, Sakura quickly realized what she was thinking, and shook that away, hoping nobody noticed her blushing like Hinata. She decided she needed to go on the attack before someone realized she was having impure thoughts about another boy, and worse, Naruto. "Naruto, you're late," the pink-haired banshee roared after only a few moments. "You stupid baka." She went to hit him. However, when she swung, she just crashed painfully into the floor, as he moved out of the way with a simple sidestep, not even pulling his hands from his pockets, and still looking bored. His teammates looked at him in surprise, though Kakashi was quick to glare at Sakura as she got up. She conveniently forgot about what happened last time they saw each other. He wondered whether she could be saved, and just had a mental disorder, and hoped so, maybe some therapy could help her out. He didn't think she was really bad, but having met her mother, Sakura needed to learn that her mother was a selfish bitch, and everything she said was likely a load of crap. "Naruto Yubaka. How dare you move?" Sakura demanded angrily, more enraged than she was when she banged on his apartment door a couple weeks back. "Hokage-sama," Kakashi interrupted, trying to keep his anger with Naruto in check. "This boy has been nothing but trouble, and useless. I'm placing him on report." "No, you're not," the Hokage replied, shocking the. Naruto smirked before shrugging, as he snatched Kakashi's little orange book of porn from the surprised man, and threw it to Sakura. "You might not be such a stressed out bitch if you read some of that to help you get off." It was actually a surprise that it had been Kurenai that had laughed. "Sorry," she said, as everyone looked at her. It was quite amusing. She tried defending herself, though the old man would later agree. "Okay, enough, Sakura," the old man Hokage interrupted, before she could continue being a bitch, as Kakashi was quick to take his precious book back, before she ruined it. "If you continue on like this, I'll put you and your whole team up on probation, understand?" "Yes, Hokage-sama," but Naruto started. "No, you started it," Shino was quick to interrupt. "Naruto-san is not late, as Anbu had to find him. In addition to this, if Naruto-san was busy for some reason, it is only polite to wrap things up, otherwise, he wouldn't be wearing a suit." This meeting was not prearranged, so Naruto-san was within his right to conclude business, as it was not stated to be urgent. "I now believe you should quieting, as the Hokage has something to discuss with us." Sakura just grumbled, and looked at Naruto in anger, as if it was his fault she got into trouble, and nobody noticed the Hyuga girls' quick glare at her. If they did, they might worry about Sakura's continued safety. "Yes, thank you, Shino-kun," the aged Hokage agreed with a nod. "It has come to my attention that neither of your teams are doing well." The Hokage glared, and let out some color intent, as Kakashi, Sakura, and Kiba had been about to interrupt. He had little doubt all of them were about to blame their teammates in some form or another, and he didn't care to hear their bullshit. "No, Kakashi," he said, glaring at the man. I really didn't think much of it until I finally got to read your team reports, after Shino's father came to see me about his concerns with teammate with a request that I've been looking into, and finally come to a decision. It seems from your reports that Sasuke is the only one doing anything of any use other than yourself, which contradicts other reports. However, he continued loudly to interrupt the smug-looking Sakura from praising Sasuke. As you may have realized, I have just read the report from the Wave Country mission that claims that you and Sasuke defeated Tsubusa and his apprentice. What the hell? Naruto asked out in shock. He wouldn't have actually thought Kakashi would have the guts to lie like that, as he could so easily get found out. I defeated Haku, he declared in anger. The thought of Sasuke taking credit for defeating him or her is an insult to Haku's memory. Don't be such a liar, Naru, Sakura spat out, but the way she said it was without much conviction. She almost sounded bad for lying to herself, and Naruto couldn't help but feel pity for her. She was so far in her own little world of Sasuke having to be great that she just couldn't help but butt in and lie for him. I wanted on the record that I did not agree to that lie, Sasuke said while turning a cool glare on Kakashi, and he squirmed slightly. I don't need nor want you to lie for me. Naruto defeated that boy or girl, Haku. But, Sasuke-kun. Sakura interrupted while even the Hokage was surprised that Sasuke was siding with Naruto and the truth, and Sakura looked like she couldn't believe her ears. Enough, Sakura, the Hokage hissed out in annoyance. Sasuke is right to tell the truth, embellish your missions all you like, and you can even leave out unimportant and boring parts, but do not lie. He said, quelling her with his glare, and wondering whether he could give her to a kunoichi with a sadistic thirst for blood, to get her trained up in something more useful than cheerleading. He had just the woman for the job in mind, and the more he thought about it looking at the weak girl the better he liked the idea. It was either that or dismiss her. She couldn't even defend herself, because Kakashi seemed to be such a shit sensei she was learning nothing from him. I had also received a letter of thanks from Wave's elders, the Hokage continued coolly. Their version of events differs vastly from yours, Kakashi. In fact, the bridge builder felt it his duty to state his concern with how you in particular treat Naruto, Sakura, and that Kakashi just seems to find amusement in it. In fact, they were so impressed with Naruto they named the bridge between Wave and Fire after him. They did? Several people in the room asked together in shock. Yes, the Hokage agreed with a small proud smile aimed at Naruto, before he turned back to Sakura, and she gulped in dread. If I hear a whisper of you threatening or assaulting another ninja of Konoha again, I shall have you taken to tea, and I before you serve time in prison for assault. He finished off, and the idea of sending her to a vicious kunoichi was sounding better and better. It would show her what a real kunoichi should know and be. The Hokage-sama, she set out in panic and fear. It's only Naruto Baka, my mum has always said that I can. Then I'll be investigating your bitch of a mother too. Hears and hissed such venom they all flinched, and realized why he was top dog, as they felt a spike of his power, and she had finally settled his mind. She would regret the day she pushed his kindness too far, then someday maybe thank him. I am taking Naruto off of Team 7, and trading him with teammates Kiba, he finally finished off to a few shocked gasps. What have I done? Kiba asked in shock. I'll tell my mum, she won't have this, he spat out in his eternal arrogance. That's surprising how she was all for the idea, he replied glaring at the boy. I don't like the way you've been acting towards your other teammates, or the way you've been disrespectful to your sensei. So, I'm giving you to Team 7 whether you like it or not, and your mother has promised some extra training. But she's just a woman, why should I? He asked but looked terrified. Oh, shit Kiba. Your mum's here standing on a giant mushroom with legs and eyes. It's freaky, interrupted Naruto with an annoyed growl, and pointing to the door. Where? Kiba asked, and he wasn't the only one who looked, but he was the only one who fell to the floor with a bloody nose unconscious. His little white puppy just stood staring at him with a shake of its little puppy head. You should look for a smarter pet, Naruto said to the little dog. Hopefully one that's not a dick, he added, as he looked the boy over, as he pulled out a marker pen, and wrote the words I give free head on his forehead. The Hokage groaned while Naruto and Kurenai were openly laughing. Hinata had puffed out cheeks from trying not to laugh, and even Shino and Sasuke seemed to find some amusement in it, as their faces twitched in humor. However, Hiruzen shook his head, as he looked up to see the wild-looking beautiful woman, mother to the idiot. Though, she wasn't riding on a freaky mutant mushroom, which might have brought some extra amusement to his day. She just stood there snickering, as her son had fallen for that quite a few times now, from the same person. She would have thought he would have figured out that he should stop looking over there. Sum-san, the old man, greeted with a small bow of his head. I do apologize for starting so soon as I knew you wanted to be here, but he gestured to Sakura, Kakashi, and Kiba. They were being quite stubborn. Bitches, Naruto answered, as the old man couldn't find the right word to finish with. They all looked at him in surprise, and he almost missed Hinata's small dreamy smile. Sorry, they were being bitches, he said glaringly, as Kakashi sneered at him. I see, the woman answered with a smirk. I like that my daughters are only 5 years older than you, she suggested with raised eyebrows. I wouldn't mind having such an incredible son-in-law. Naruto chuckled nervously as he rubbed the back of his neck. Well, some have mentioned I have demonic stamina, so I don't think she could handle me by herself. She looked surprised for a moment before she burst out laughing. I like you, kid, you have some balls on you, she said laughingly, when the Hokage cleared his throat to draw back their attention while looking amused, as he enjoyed those who allowed themselves some crazy antics. Oh, right, you were talking before my son was a rude moron, and got caught with one shot. He can be so easily tricked I have to wonder whether I didn't just find him in a pet store. Well, right, the Hokage said while shaking his head and rolling his eyes. Kakashi, take your new student and get out of my sight. Oh, and if you don't show any improvements, or should I say, if your students don't, I shall have you on probation and remove you as Uchiha-san's teacher. Do you understand? He asked, treating him like a child. Yes, sir, he said nervously as he scooped Kiba up. Also, Sakura, the old man added, before they left through the door. She turned to him and gulped. I believe I have someone who would like to meet you. She likes to get an early start, so be here at 6:30 am. If you're late by even a second, she will likely punish you, and I don't care how. You understand? Sakura gulped as she nodded her head. Why yes sir, she said, as he gestured for them to leave, and they did, closing the door behind them quickly with Kiba's dog rushing out with them. Well, Kurenai, I actually have a mission for your team, he said once they were gone. Sum-san has requested a mission with a C rank accompanying her to the Summit Monastery up North Pass, to deal with some unexplained animal attacks. It shouldn't take longer than a few days, so you'll be back with time to decide whether you believe your team is capable of taking the exam. Yes sir, Kurenai agreed, nodding, surprised her newly made team made no motion of caring about entering the exams. She didn't doubt with the way things were going that they could do well and make her proud. It's such a simple thing, I figured it would be easy going for a new genin team, Sum agreed with a smile. I wouldn't have asked teammate with Kiba on it, as I know he isn't mature enough to travel with me, so be ready for let's say 2:30 at the North Gate, so that leaves you just over 2 hours to get supplied, and whatever else you need to do. Sweet, Naruto said with a grin. Maybe on this C-rank mission we won't get attacked by A-rank Nukenin, he said with a sheepish grin, as he leaned towards the old man secretly. Or any freaky monsters wanting to eat or kill us. I've had enough of that for a while. We can only hope, the Hokage said with a smile, not worried about security so much, as Naruto's new teammates were trustworthy, and Kurenai and Sum knew about them anyway. Well teammate, dismissed, and don't be late now, he added the last, as the students left past Sum and Kurenai, as they exited the office together. How did you swing this? Kurenai couldn't help but ask after a moment of the door being closed. I would have thought the council. The Hokage just smirked. They're not the only people who can sneak about. It was actually simple, as I used my power to just switch their teams, as long as I had nobody able to have reason to contest it. I don't know how long it will take them to notice though, but they can't usurp me on this, and I have a few tricks up my sleeves. Like other parties, I've been getting tired of them thinking they're in charge, and I'm no longer above cheating. They're just weakening our village, because of their own greed, and what seems to be their control over Kakashi. I shall no longer allow this. Naruto left his new team, past the beaten pulp of the secretary fast, and he ran through the streets at top speed, considering it an emergency worthy of taking to higher ground. The odd blast of his movement even made the odd skirt or dress float up, as he tried to get back home without getting accosted by hot girls, wanting to hug him or something when he had to get changed, and get ready for the mission. Uzumaki-kun Naruto was called, as soon as he got to his apartment blocked by a pretty young blonde woman, one of his 2 new tenants. I'm sorry to bother you while you're in a hurry, but we forgot to ask about utilities. Oh, right, the small closet by the front door has your meters in it, he said with a grin. It's fixed billing, but don't worry, if you want just tell me, and I'll add in utilities to your rent to make it easier for you. But I'm going to be away for a couple of days, so you can just leave a note through my door, and I'll sort it for you when I get home, okay? Yes, thank you, Uzumaki-kun, she said cheerfully, as she waved, while he ran off upstairs to his floor. Good luck with whatever it is you're going to be doing, she called after him. Naruto quickly entered his apartment, and after closing the door started stripping out of his suit, folding it neatly, and then leaving it on his bed in his room before grabbing his regular ninja gear, and getting dressed. He looked at his watch, after he grabbed all of his equipment, and realized that he should have taken his time, but then thinking about that, if he did, he might have been discovered by his newly acquired fans, and then been late. He didn't want to be a douche like Kakashi, and make his team wait around for him. Shrugging, Naruto grabbed his keys and wallet, and exited the apartment, and activated the security wards, and snuck out of his building. With the way things were lightening in the crime department around his neighborhood, he wouldn't be surprised if his fangirls risked hunting for him here, if they found out where he lived. Naruto was cautious, as he walked through town towards the North Gate. When he was walking by Tenten's place he had plenty of time to stop by, and tell her he was off on a mission. Therefore, entering, Naruto saw the girl behind the counter quickly hiding something, as the bell above the door chimed, which he found suspicious, as he walked over. Hey, Ten-chan, Naruto said sweetly, as he leaned over and stole a quick kiss. She was happy to return. So, what was it you hid? He asked with a smirk, as he leant on the counter trying to look under it, but she just nervously moved in his way, causing his face to push up against her chest. Come on Ten-chan, he said, pulling back smugly. You know I can't be beat like that, another Naruto said behind her, as he threw something at the real Naruto, as he stood up straight grinning, as he caught it, and the clone burst away. Naruto looked the thing over while Tenten blushed, and glared at him. It was a large dark purple crossbow, but looking it over, it could probably hold multiple arrows, and yep. He smiled, as he fiddled with it a little, watching, as he pulled the trigger, as the arrow barrel moved, which would replace the unloaded arrow with a loaded one, and reset the crossbow. Wow, somebody has arrow envy, Naruto said teasingly while she snatched it off him, and Glare pouted at him in annoyance. Don't be stupid Naruto, she said rolling her eyes. Dad made a pair a while back, and hearing the rumors of this arrow guy, who I do not know personally, she said while staring at Naruto with a roll of her eyes, while he just smiled innocently. So, I dug them out, and fixed them up. They were quite dirty, and they didn't really work right when Dad made them, which is why I just dumped them in storage, but I finally figured out how to get them fully functional, mainly because I actually tried, and never cared enough, to get them working before. Well, I bow before your humble awesomeness, beautiful, he replied with a grin, and a cheeky mock bow before leaning over, and kissing her lips before pulling back to see her cute pout. Anyway, I just popped by to tell you I've finally gotten a new team. I'm now taking Kiba's place on Team 8. We were traded like some myths, monsters, card game cards or something. Well, that's good for you, Naruto, she said, giving him a hug with a wide grin, as she stole his lips, and grabbed his butt with a giggle. Don't get too handsy with Hinata-chan or you'll owe me, and Ino-chan too much extra time. She said mockingly, but she cuddled up lovingly in his arms. I'm glad you finally got teammates that aren't douches, but you'll always be welcome saving me from my weirdo teammates, especially Lee. Though, having Kiba on her team, maybe Sakura will learn how good she had it with you, as a teammate. Naruto laughed when that reminded him of something. I think the old man Hokage is giving Sakura some special treatment by introducing her. He laughed more, as he thought about a few kunoichi that he might introduce her to. I don't know who, but she's got to be dangerous the way he said it, probably poor Pinky. Tenten snorted her laugh, rolling her eyes. Yeah, poor Pinky indeed, she replied laughingly. Well maybe she'll have learned her lesson by the time she's done. She's been giving a bad name to kunoichi everywhere. I guess she might not be so bad, if she becomes a better role model than that lazy moron, Kakashi. Anyone is a better role model compared to that guy, Naruto replied while shrugging. I don't know what his problem is, and I don't care much. If he is going to be a Jounin sensei, he has to treat his students equally. I had to deal with that bastard Sasuke getting everything while I got shit at the academy, so I wouldn't expect it from Kakashi too, especially with our lives on the line. Yeah well, the rest of us had to put up with those academy idiots too, Tenten replied sadly. Niji was always getting special treatment from the instructors, while the rest of us were looked at like we should be looking up at his genius and all. It's freaking crazy, Naruto answered, shaking his head. My class had several other clan heirs, but they were all falling over themselves to suck Sasuke's shithole clean. Yet, the prick doesn't even appreciate it, and they keep on bowing to him while he shows off everything. He's become so predictable, as he keeps spitting out fireballs, and spouting off about how much more powerful he is compared to everyone else. Tenten shook her head looking amused. At least he doesn't piss about with your fate is to lose to me, and crap like that every time he opens his stupid mouth. If I have to hear shit like that one more time, I might show him that his fate is to die speared on the end of my spear. She hissed out, as she pulled from Naruto's arms, and kicked a long black spear off a shelf, catching it, and spinning it around her fingers before standing with it beside her, and sticking her tongue out. Whoa, cute and scary, Naruto said with a grin. Anyway, Ten-chan, I have a mission, so won't be around for a couple days. So, I have to go before I'm late. I'll see you when I get back, and tell Ino-chan for me, and try to spread word to all of those weird schoolgirls, so they stay clear of Greyland. Will do, she said with a grin, as she gave him a quick searing kiss, before he escaped out of the door waving to her. She shook her head smiling, as she placed her spear back onto the shelf.
That's it for today guys. I hope you enjoyed my video, and see you in the next part of this video. Till then, sayonara.